The wind carried the dust across the ruined colony market. Broken stalls leaned like skeletons, and the smell of rust mixed with hunger. Children with hollow eyes sat by the cracked walls, staring at scraps they could not reach. Among them walked a human trader, his steps heavy but steady, his eyes searching quietly. He was not like the other traders. Most humans who came to this colony demanded gold, rare stones, or labor in return for food. But this man carried a small crate of rations, sealed and clean. The aliens watched from the shadows, whispering that he would take whatever he wanted. From behind one of the broken stalls, an alien mother stepped forward. Her skin was pale with weakness, her breath shallow, and in her arms she held two thin children. They clung to her tightly, their lips dry, their stomachs growling. The mother's eyes carried both fear and determination. She walked closer to the human, her knees almost giving way with every step. The human stopped, looking down at her quietly. The mother lowered her gaze, ashamed of what she was about to say. She whispered with a trembling voice, "I cannot pay with coin, I have nothing left, but if you give food to my children, I will offer myself as payment." The words fell heavy in the air. The human's eyes narrowed in shock, and for a moment he said nothing. The children looked up at their mother, too young to understand the meaning. The aliens hiding in the shadows gasped softly, for such an offer was a final act of despair. The human placed the crate down slowly. His movements calm, he crouched to the children's level, pulling 2 ration packs from the box without a word. He placed them into the children's hands. The children blinked, staring at the food as if it was a miracle. The mother froze, confused, her body shaking. "You are mistaken," the human finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "I did not come here to buy you. I came to feed them." He nodded toward the children, who had already begun tearing open the packs with trembling fingers. The mother's eyes filled with tears, her lips struggling to form words. No one had refused such an offer before, not in this broken colony. "Why?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why would you give them food without taking something in return?" Her tone carried both suspicion and desperate hope. The human looked at her, and for a moment, something unreadable passed across his face. He stood again, taller than the mother, yet his presence felt protective rather than threatening. "Because children should eat," he said simply. "That is enough payment." The mother dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. Her hands covered her face as silent sobs shook her thin frame. The children pressed close to her, chewing quickly, afraid someone might take the food away. The watching aliens whispered louder now, their voices carrying across the ruined stalls. A human, refusing power, refusing payment, only feeding. The human's eyes moved to the crowd of shadows. He could feel their stares, a mix of disbelief and fear. He knew word would spread quickly. Kindness was dangerous in places like this, but he did not flinch. He simply picked up another pack and placed it by the mother's side. The wind howled through the cracked buildings, carrying the dust like a veil. The moment felt frozen, the human standing still, the mother bowing with trembling hands, the children clinging to life through bites of ration. And in that silence, a new kind of tension was born. Not of cruelty, but of mystery. Who was this human? And why did he choose kindness where others chose greed? The answer was hidden for now, deep inside his past. But the colony had just witnessed something they had never seen before. The story of the alien mother's offer. And the human's refusal was only beginning. The alien mother sat in the dust, her thin frame trembling as her children ate with greedy little hands. Her eyes were wide, staring at the human who had refused her desperate offer. In her world, kindness was a currency no one could afford. Yet here stood a man who gave without taking. The question burned in her heart. Why? The human stood quietly, his shadow stretching across the cracked stones. He watched the children chew and swallow as if each bite was a battle won. There was no hunger in his eyes, no cruel smile of power, only a calm patience. He bent down again, pulling out a canteen from his pack and setting it before the mother. "Water," he said softly, "for them." The mother reached out, her fingers shaking as she grabbed the canteen. She opened it and held it to the lips of her youngest child. The little one drank, coughing, then smiled weakly for the first time in many days. The mother's throat tightened, her tears blurring the human's face. "Still," she whispered, "I don't understand." The human crouched lower so that he could meet her eyes. "You don't have to," he answered, his tone steady. "Children are not soldiers, not workers, not payment. They are just children. They deserve food and safety. Nothing else matters." The mother lowered her head, her voice breaking. But no one helps us. No one feeds us unless they want something back. Her words cut through the silence, and in the shadows nearby, the watching aliens murmured in agreement. The human's gaze hardened slightly, but not with anger. Then maybe it's time someone did, he said. And with that he opened the crate wider, showing that there was more food inside. Gasps rippled through the broken marketplace. The alien mother's heart pounded, fear mixing with hope. Why would you risk this? She asked, her voice trembling. If the raiders see you giving food away, they will punish you. They will punish all of us. The human's eyes darkened, a shadow of old pain flickering there. I know the cost of hunger, he said simply. I've seen what it does. I won't let it win again. His words held a weight she could not fully understand, but she felt the honesty in them. The children tugged at her sleeves, holding out crumbs of their ration packs as if offering to share back with her. Her heart cracked, for even in their weakness they wanted to give. The human noticed this and gave a small nod of approval. They learn from you, he said quietly. Don't teach them despair. Teach them hope. The mother looked down, ashamed. But I offered myself to you. I showed them despair. Her voice was like a knife in her own chest. The human shook his head. No. You showed them sacrifice, a mother's love. But they need more than sacrifice. They need a reason to believe the world is not only cruel. For the first time, the alien mother truly studied his face. It was weathered by journeys and battles she could only imagine. There were lines of sorrow, yet his eyes carried a strange strength. He was not like the merchants who spat on her kind, nor the soldiers who took without care. This man was different, but she still did not know why. The other aliens watching began to whisper more urgently now. Some whispered that he was a fool, others that he was dangerous. A few whispered words they had not used in years. Hope, the human, ignored them all, his focus only on the two children licking their fingers clean. When the rations were gone, the children looked up at him with shy eyes. The human reached out and ruffled their heads gently. You're stronger than you think, he told them. Eat today, and tomorrow we find more. The mother gasped softly. Tomorrow, she repeated as if she had forgotten the meaning of that word. Yes, the human replied. Tomorrow, and the day after that. Her lips trembled as she whispered, Why are you doing this? The human straightened, lifting the empty crate, his face unreadable. Because once, someone did the same for me, he said quietly. And I survived. Now it is my turn to do the same. He turned slightly, his back to the gathering crowd, but his voice carried like a stone dropped into water. This is my choice. The alien mother clutched her children tighter. Overwhelmed by his words, her heart was torn between fear and gratitude. This human was changing everything, her own fate, her children's future, maybe even the whispers of the colony. But she did not yet understand the full weight of what was beginning. The dust swirled again through the broken stalls. The human's figure seemed to stand firm against the storm. In that moment, the mother realized something she had never thought possible. Perhaps strength was not in taking, but in giving. And this man, this human, was proving it with every choice he made. The children smiled weakly, leaning against their mother, their bellies full for the first time in weeks. The mother looked at them, then back at the human. Her lips whispered a vow to herself, quiet but strong. I will remember this kindness, and I will repay it no matter what it costs. The marketplace, once filled with silence, now carried a hum of restless voices, a dangerous hum, a hopeful hum, a storm waiting to break. And in the center of it the human stood still, a man who had chosen kindness in a world that had forgotten it. The colony was not a place where good news survived long. Usually the wind carried only the smell of smoke, the sound of crying and the weight of hunger. But after that day in the market, whispers began to rise, small at first, then louder. Whispers about a human who fed starving children without asking for payment. In the broken alleys, alien workers repeated the story in low voices. Mothers clutched their little ones closer. Wondering if the tale was true, old men shook their heads, saying no human would give food for free. Not here, not in this cruel corner of the galaxy. Yet the story grew anyway. Spreading like fire in dry grass, the alien mother, who once offered herself in desperation, sat with her children outside the ruined shelter that night. Her children slept against her arms, their stomachs no longer crying in pain. Her eyes lifted to the stars, and for the first time in many years, she felt something she thought was lost, Hope the human had not asked for her body, nor her labor, nor her loyalty. He had only asked her to let her children eat. That simple act was now a storm in her mind. A storm she could not calm, she whispered softly. Why him? Why now? But there was no answer except the soft breathing of her children. The next morning, more eyes followed the human when he walked into the colony. Some were filled with suspicion, some with anger, and some with silent wonder. A group of young aliens ran ahead of him, calling out, "It's him! The one who gave food!" The words drew more attention, and soon wherever he walked, the whispers followed. The human ignored the stares. Moving with the same calm steps, his pack was lighter now. But still he carried small things, water, ration bars, medicine strips. He stopped by an old alien coughing against a wall. Pressing a strip of medicine into his hands, he knelt by a child with no shoes, tying cloth around the little feet to guard against the sharp stones. Every act fed the whispers. Every small kindness carried weight in a place where cruelty was normal. The alien mother watched from the edge of the market, her heart torn. Part of her wanted to warn him. Kindness would draw the wrong eyes, dangerous eyes. Yet another part of her wanted to believe he could not be broken by cruelty. That evening, in the broken tavern where aliens gathered for weak drinks and bitter talk, the whispers grew louder. "They say he gave food without asking coin," one voice said. "They say he healed a sick child with human medicine," another added. "They say he will be killed for this foolishness," muttered a third. Bitter with fear, still none could stop talking about him. The alien mother's children smiled brighter each day, their cheeks slowly filling with life. Other children began to follow the human too. Shy but curious, he never turned them away, always carrying something small to share. Even if it meant less for himself, the children laughed. Their voices like music that the colony had not heard in years. The sound stirred something dangerous, hope spreading faster than hunger. But not everyone welcomed the change. Among the shadows of the colony, eyes watched with greed and hatred, raiders and thugs, the ones who controlled scraps of food by fear, now saw their power slipping. If the human continued, their control would weaken. Already some families whispered about refusing to pay cruel prices to the raiders. Already some looked to the human as a protector. One night, the alien mother approached the human as he rested by a dim fire outside the colony walls. She carried no offer this time, only gratitude. Her voice was soft but heavy with meaning. "They are talking about you everywhere. You have changed things. But you have also brought danger to yourself." The human opened his eyes. Calm as always. "Danger is everywhere already. Hunger is a greater enemy than any raider." She shook her head, her hands clutching her cloak. "You don't understand. They will not let you continue. They see you as a threat. They will come for you." The human's gaze moved to her children sleeping nearby. He said gently, "Then I will face them, but until then, I will keep feeding those who need it." The mother's chest ached with fear and respect all at once. She could not understand how a man could face such danger without flinching. The whispers in the colony became louder each passing day. They reached every ear, from the poorest worker to the cruelest raider. The story of the human was no longer just a whisper. It was a spark, and sparks in a place soaked with despair could start a fire. The alien mother looked at her children, stronger now, their eyes brighter. She looked at the human, standing firm against the tide of suspicion and greed, and she realized something she had never dared to believe. Perhaps the whispers were not just rumors. Perhaps the whispers were the beginning of change. The night was restless, the colony alive with quiet voices. Every corner echoed with the same question, repeated again and again. Who was this human? And why did he choose kindness where others chose cruelty? The alien mother woke before the sun rose. Her children were still sleeping beside her, their thin arms wrapped around each other. But their faces carried more color than before. For the first time in many cycles, she felt they might survive another day. And the reason was the human. She stood quietly, watching the man prepare his pack. He worked in silence, placing ration bars, water flasks, and old tools carefully. Every movement was steady, practiced, like someone who had lived on the edge for a long time. The mother lowered her eyes, her heart heavy. She had nothing left to give him, nothing but herself. And yet he had refused her once. Later that day, she followed him into the market. Children ran to his side, and he gave them small pieces of dried fruit and bread. The whispers around the colony grew louder. Some aliens bowed their heads as he passed. Some simply stared, torn between disbelief and respect. But the human never asked for praise, never demanded loyalty. He only gave. The mother's hands shook as she cleaned the broken stall she once used. She had no food to sell, no coin to trade. But she wanted to do something, anything. When the human returned, she knelt in front of him, lowering her head. "You saved my children," she whispered. "I cannot pay you with wealth, but I owe you my life. I will serve you until my debt is repaid." The human frowned, setting his pack down slowly. "You owe me nothing," he said, his voice steady. The mother lifted her head, confusion in her eyes. "Nothing, but you gave everything. You fed us, you risked your safety. How can I let you carry the burden alone?" The human looked at her for a long moment, then sighed softly. "If you wish to help, then do not bow, do not serve me, instead stand with me. Teach your children that hope is stronger than fear." The mother's lips trembled, her heart caught between gratitude and shame. She had expected him to command her, to use her like others would. Instead, he asked for something greater, something harder: to live with dignity, to pass that strength to her children. In the days that followed, she began to act. When he handed out rations, she helped organize the crowd. When children came, she taught them to line up and share fairly. She cleaned the broken jars where he stored water. She even sang to her children softly at night, songs she had forgotten long ago. The human never stopped her, never took control, but always gave a small nod of approval. For the first time, she felt not like a beggar, but like a partner. The colony noticed. The whispers grew into stories, stories of a mother who once offered herself in despair, but now stood beside the human with honor. Her children walked taller, smiling at others, unafraid. And in every corner of the market, people spoke of debts, not of money or flesh, but of kindness, they said. Kindness must be repaid not with coin, but with courage. The human, however, remained cautious. He knew danger was close. He could feel the stares of men who did not like his presence. The raiders who controlled food and water with iron fists now saw him as a rival. Still, he chose not to leave. Each time the mother warned him, he only replied, "If I run, hunger wins again." One evening, as the firelight flickered against the broken walls, the mother approached him once more. Her children were asleep, safe and warm with food in their bellies. She bowed her head slightly, though not in servitude but in respect. "You have given us life," she whispered. "Let me swear before the stars, my family is yours to protect. We will stand with you no matter the cost." The human looked at her, his face unreadable in the fire's glow. He finally said, "I do not want worship. I do not want servants, but if you wish to stand beside me, then stand not as debt but as honor." The words struck her heart like thunder. He did not see her as weak, nor as payment. He saw her as equal. The next morning she rose early. Walking into the colony with her children, she spoke to other mothers, to the broken workers, to the hopeless fathers. She told them what she had seen, what she had learned, that the human gave without taking, that strength was in giving, that honor was not in fear but in hope. The whispers spread again, faster, stronger, carried by her voice, and the colony began to stir with something dangerous to those in power: unity. The debt she once thought impossible to repay was no longer a burden. It had become something greater, a bond of honor between herself, her children, and the man who had changed everything. But shadows still lingered in the corners of the market. The raiders were watching, their eyes sharp, their whispers darker. They would not allow this hope to grow unchecked, and soon they would come to collect. The colony had changed in small ways. Where once silence ruled, now voices carried whispers of hope. Where once children hid behind broken walls, now some of them dared to laugh. The alien mother saw it every day, and she knew it was because of the human. But even as kindness spread, mystery grew around him. He never spoke of himself, never told where he came from. He moved with the quiet strength of someone used to pain. And in his eyes there was always a shadow, something unspoken, something heavy. One night, as the fires burned low, the mother sat across from him. Her children slept between them, their breath steady, the silence stretched. And finally she asked, "Why do you do this? Why risk yourself for strangers?" The human's gaze stayed on the flames, his jaw tight. After a long pause, he whispered, "Because I know what it means to starve. I know what it means to lose everything." The mother's heart tightened, but she said nothing. The human's voice was low, almost like he was speaking to himself. There was a war years ago back on my world. We were trapped in the ruins, food was gone, water was poisoned, my family. His words faltered, he closed his eyes, and for the first time she saw his calm mask break. I had children, he said at last. 2, a boy and a girl, they were small like yours. And I could not save them. The mother covered her mouth. Her eyes filling with tears, she whispered, I am sorry, but the words felt too small. The human shook his head slowly. I survived, they did not, and I carry that with me every day. It is why I cannot walk past hungry children. It is why I refuse to take payment of flesh or coin. I already know the cost of failure. The flames crackled softly between them. The mother lowered her head, her voice trembling. You see them in my children, don't you? The human did not answer, but his eyes softened when he looked at the 2 little ones sleeping by her side. His silence was enough. The next day, she watched him more closely. The way he bent down to speak gently with the children, the way he smiled faintly when they laughed, the way he carried extra food in his pack even when it weighed him down. She realized then that his kindness was not just choice, it was memory. A wound that never healed, guiding him like a compass. The whispers in the colony grew stronger. He gives because he lost, some said. He feeds because he knows hunger, others added. But no one could deny the truth. His pain was turning into hope for others, and that truth gave him more power than the raiders' weapons. The alien mother began to change too. She no longer walked with her head bowed, no longer spoke with a voice of despair. She told her children about honor, about strength, about remembering those who helped. She wanted them to grow not only on food, but on the human's lessons, and every time she looked at him, she felt something deeper, a bond not of debt but of shared loss. Yet the shadow of danger grew closer. The raiders had heard the stories, and their anger sharpened. They saw his kindness as rebellion, his hope as a weapon against their control. One night, the mother overheard their whispers in the dark alleys. They say he had children. They say he lost them. Maybe we remind him of that pain. Maybe we break him with it. Her blood ran cold, and fear clutched her chest. She rushed back to the human, her breath short, her voice urgent. They know about you, she said. They will use your past against you. They will not stop until you are gone. The human looked at her calmly, his eyes tired but firm. Let them try, he replied. I have already lost the worst I could lose. There is nothing left they can take from me. But there is still something I can give. The mother shook her head. No, there is us. There are these children. If you fall, hope falls with you. Her words trembled with both fear and devotion. The human studied her for a long moment, then finally said, Then stand with me. Not behind me. The words struck her heart, and she realized that his past, his wounds, were not chains but fire. Fire that could either destroy him or light the path for all of them. That night, the mother whispered to her children as they lay in her arms, He once had children like you. He lost them, but now he protects us. We will honor him not with fear but with courage. The children nodded sleepily, their small hands clutching hers, and in their innocent eyes, she saw what the human had given them. Not only food, but a reason to believe tomorrow could exist. The human sat near the fire, alone, his gaze lost in the stars. The past haunted him, but the present gave him purpose, and as the whispers spread through the colony, turning into quiet songs of respect, he knew the fight was not over. The raiders would come, the danger would rise. But he was ready because this time he was not alone. The colony was breathing again for the first time in years. Families dared to smile, children dared to play, and mothers dared to dream of tomorrow, but hope is dangerous. And in the dark corners of the broken world, danger was already moving. The raiders who ruled the colony with fear had grown restless. They had built their power on hunger, selling scraps at cruel prices, forcing the weak to beg. Now this human, with his quiet kindness, had undone their hold. They gathered in the shadows, their eyes burning with anger. He feeds them without asking, one spat. He makes them believe they don't need us, another growled. If we don't stop him now, the whole colony will turn, their leader hissed. His voice sharp as a knife. The alien mother felt the tension before it came. She saw the way whispers grew sharper, how the raiders watched the human with narrowed eyes. She wanted to warn him every moment, but he already knew. He moved calmly, as if waiting for the storm to break. One afternoon, the storm arrived. The human stood in the marketplace, handing small ration bars to a group of children. Their smiles lit up the broken streets, but then the air shifted. Heavy boots struck the ground, a cruel laugh echoed, and the raiders stepped into view. The crowd scattered back, mothers pulling children behind them. The alien mother froze, clutching her little ones close, her heart pounding. The raider leader, a tall figure with scarred skin and cold eyes, shoved past the crowd. He stopped in front of the human, sneering. "So this is the great savior," he mocked. "The human who gives food without price? The fool who makes them forget their place?" The human said nothing. His gaze steady, his jaw tight. The leader stepped closer, his voice louder, so all could hear. "Do you know what happens when you feed the weak?" he snarled. "They stop fearing us, they stop paying us, they start to believe they are free." The human's eyes darkened, but his voice was calm. "Perhaps they should be free." A hush fell across the market. The raider leader's face twisted in fury, his hand snapping to the knife at his belt. "You think you can stand against us alone?" he spat. The human's gaze did not waver. "I am not alone." At that moment, the alien mother stepped forward. Her legs shook, but she held her children's hands tightly. Her voice trembled, yet carried through the silence. "He is not alone. We stand with him." Gasps rippled through the crowd. More mothers stepped out, then fathers, then workers, one by one. The colony that had once hidden now stood taller, their whispers rising into voices. The raider leader laughed cruelly. "Pathetic, you think your numbers matter? You are weak, starving, broken." He drew his blade, pointing it at the human. "But you will be the first to fall, and then their hope will die with you." The human did not move. His hand stayed at his side, his eyes locked on the leader. "I have lost everything before," he said quietly. "You cannot break me again." The tension thickened. The raiders shifted their weapons. The crowd held its breath. The children clung to their mothers, wide-eyed and afraid. The alien mother felt her heart race, but her fear did not silence her. She shouted, "You will not take him." "Not while we breathe." The colony's voices rose behind her, a wave of courage crashing against fear. The raiders snarled, ready to strike, but for the first time, they faced not silence but resistance. The human stepped forward, placing himself between the raiders and the people. His voice was steady, strong enough to cut through the chaos. "Then let it be known," he said, "if you wish to starve children, you must come through me." The leader lunged, his blade flashing, but the human was ready. He caught the raider's arm, twisting hard. Forcing the weapon to clatter against the stones, the market erupted with shouts. The raiders surged forward, but so did the people. Rocks flew, sticks swung, voices cried out. The colony was no longer silent, no longer broken. The fight was raw, desperate, but it was not one-sided. The human moved with precision, his strikes heavy and controlled. He fought not for glory, but to shield the weak behind him. The mother pulled her children back, but her eyes stayed fixed on him, her heart burning with both fear and pride. Dust rose, screams echoed, and blood stained the ground. But through it all, the human stood unbroken, each move reminding the raiders that he was not like the rest. He was fueled by something they could not understand, something stronger than fear. Loss turned into purpose. Finally, the raider leader staggered back, clutching his arm. His voice was filled with rage and disbelief. "This is not over," he spat. "You cannot fight us all." The human stood tall, his chest rising with heavy breaths, but his eyes sharp. "Then let them come," he said. "Because I will not stop, not now, not ever." The leader retreated, his men dragging him away, but his glare promised vengeance. The colony watched in silence as the raiders disappeared into the dust. Then slowly voices rose again, not in whispers, but in cheers. Children cried out, mothers wept, fathers raised their fists. The human had not only fought, he had ignited something greater. The alien mother dropped to her knees, pulling her children close, her tears falling freely. The human turned to her, his face still calm despite the storm. "You see," he said softly, "hunger is not the only enemy, fear is too, but now they fear less." The mother bowed her head, her voice breaking. "You have given us more than food. You have given us courage." The night fell heavy over the colony, but it was no longer the same. The people had stood, the human had fought, and the raiders had been pushed back. Yet the danger was not gone, it was only waiting. But in the heart of the colony, hope burned brighter than ever. The raiders had been pushed back, but the colony did not rest easy. Everyone knew they would return, stronger and angrier. Yet something had changed forever. The people no longer whispered only in fear. Now they spoke with pride. The human had shown them that courage was possible, and courage was spreading like fire. The alien mother held her children close that night. Her heart was heavy with fear, but it was also full of hope. Her little ones slept peacefully, their bellies full, their dreams no longer haunted by hunger. She watched the human as he sat by the fire, his face calm, his eyes reflecting the stars. For days the colony prepared. Mothers gathered scraps of cloth to bind wounds. Fathers sharpened tools into weapons. Even children collected stones for defense. The human worked quietly among them, teaching them how to stand together, not as slaves, not as victims, but as people with strength. The alien mother never left his side. She carried water, cleaned wounds, and comforted the frightened every moment. She remembered her first meeting with him, the day she had offered herself in despair. Now she could not believe how far they had come. He had refused her sacrifice, but in return he had given her and her children something greater than survival. He had given them dignity. When the raiders finally returned, the colony was ready. Dust rose in the distance, boots thundered, and cruel laughter echoed across the broken walls. The people gathered behind the human, their hands shaking but their hearts steady. The raider leader stepped forward, rage burning in his scarred face. "You think you can defy us," he shouted. "You think one human and a group of beggars can stop us?" The human stepped forward, his voice strong. "They are not beggars, they are people. And today they stand as one," the colony roared behind him, their voices rising like a storm. The raiders charged, weapons flashing, but this time, the people did not scatter. They stood, they fought, they resisted. The human led them, every strike fierce, every move to protect. The battle raged, dust and cries filling the air. The alien mother shielded her children, but when a wounded neighbor fell, she rushed to his side, lifting him with all her strength. Her children threw stones at the raiders, their small voices shouting in defiance. The colony had changed, no longer broken, no longer silent in the chaos. The raider leader lunged at the human. Blade raised high, but the human caught him again. Their bodies colliding with force this time. The colony itself rose with him, pulling the raiders down, striking with sticks, stones, and fury. The raiders, who once ruled with fear, now tasted fear themselves. At last the leader fell to his knees. Beaten, his blade shattered, the human stood over him, his chest heaving, his eyes hard. The colony waited for him to strike the final blow. But he did not. Instead, he said, "Leave, and never return. This colony is free." The leader spat blood, his pride broken, but he saw the faces around him, faces no longer afraid. He knew he could not win. With a final curse, he staggered back, his raiders dragging him into the dust. The colony erupted in cries of victory. Mothers wept, fathers shouted, children danced in the dirt. They had won. The alien mother dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Her children clung to her. Laughing and crying all at once, she looked at the human, standing tall among the broken stalls, his figure shining in the firelight of triumph. Slowly she stepped forward, bowing her head, but not in servitude, in gratitude. "You are our protector," she whispered. "You are family to us now." The human shook his head, his voice quiet but firm. "I am no savior. I am only a man who remembers what it means to lose. But if I can help others not to feel that pain, then that is enough." The mother lifted her eyes, and for the first time she dared to smile. "Then let us share that burden with you. You are not alone anymore." The children ran to him, their small arms wrapping around his legs. "Protector," they called, their voices full of innocence and joy. The human froze for a moment, then knelt, pulling them into his arms for a heartbeat. He saw his lost children in their faces, and though sorrow remained, it was joined now with healing. The colony began to rebuild. Broken stalls were lifted, walls patched, water shared freely. No longer ruled by fear, they ruled themselves with unity. And at the center of it all stood the human, not as a master, not as a conqueror, but as one of them. The alien mother often walked beside him, her children skipping at their sides together. They were more than survivors. They were family, not bound by blood, but by choice, by honor, by love born in the dust of despair. The galaxy beyond still burned with cruelty and greed, but in this small corner, one human and one alien mother had proven a truth greater than war. That family could be found across species, that kindness was stronger than fear, and that sometimes the greatest power humanity held was not in weapons but in the courage to care.